The spring heat came early to Arizona that year, turning the desert into a furnace by mid-morning. Maya Cross had been riding with Iron Ridge for 8 months now, full patch, full respect. The mockery was long gone, replaced by something she'd never quite gotten used to: deference. Members stepped aside when she walked through the clubhouse. Prospects hung on her advice about mechanical repairs and tactical decisions. Even Cage, the vice president who'd once questioned her every move, now consulted her before major runs. But respect, Maya had learned, could be as heavy as scorn. It came with expectations she wasn't sure she could meet. The call came on a Tuesday afternoon. Maya was in the garage bay, elbow deep in the engine of Dutch's Road King, when Cage walked in with his phone pressed to his ear. His expression was grim, the kind that made everyone within earshot stop what they were doing. "Yeah, I understand," Cage said into the phone. "We'll be there." He hung up and looked at Maya. "That was Oakland. National wants us at a summit." Maya straightened, wiping her hands on a rag. "Summit? All the Western charters? Some kind of dispute between the California and Nevada chapters that's threatening to spill over. They want representatives from neutral territories to mediate." Cage paused. "They specifically asked for you." The garage went quiet. Dutch emerged from beneath a softdale, concern etched across his weathered face. "They asked for her by name?" "By reputation," Cage corrected. "Word travels fast. They heard about how we handled the Scorpion situation. They want someone who thinks before shooting." Maya felt a knot form in her stomach. "I've been full patch for 8 months, Cage. I'm not a diplomat." "You're a combat medic who prevented a war without firing a shot," Dutch said, standing and crossing his arms. "That makes you exactly what they need." "When?" Maya asked. "Friday. Oakland Clubhouse. Me, you, and Reaper." Cage's jaw tightened. "Maya, I need you to understand something. These aren't prospects or rival clubs looking to make noise. These are national officers, men who've been in the life for 30, 40 years. They're not going to care about your service record or your scars. They're going to see a woman who's barely been patched asking them to listen. Some of them won't take that well." "Then why send me?" "Because despite all that, you're still the best shot we have at keeping this from turning into a bloodbath." The ride to Oakland took 2 days, straight through Nevada and into Northern California. They traveled light, just the 3 of them. No colors showing until they crossed into friendly territory. Maya rode in the middle, Cage leading and Reaper sweeping. The desert gave way to mountains, then valleys, then finally the sprawling chaos of the Bay Area. The Oakland Clubhouse was massive, a compound really, with high walls, security cameras, and enough bikes in the lot to outfit a small army. Maya counted at least 60 motorcycles as they pulled up to the gate. A prospect checked their credentials, radiating nervous energy, then waved them through. Inside, the clubhouse was darker than Iron Ridge, all exposed brick and low lighting. The smell was the same, though: motor oil, leather, stale beer, and the particular musk of men who'd spent their lives on the road. The main room was packed. Maya recognized colors from a dozen different charters: Sacramento, Fresno, Reno, Las Vegas. Men stood in clusters, voices low and tense. This wasn't a party. This was a powder keg. At the far end of the room, seated at a long table like judges at a tribunal, were the national officers, 5 men, all in their 50s and 60s, with the kind of weathered faces that came from decades of hard living. In the center sat Marcus Hammer Holt, the national president, a legend in the community. He was 71 years old, with a beard like steel wool and eyes that missed nothing. Cage approached the table with Maya and Reaper flanking him. "We're here from Iron Ridge." Hammer's gaze swept over them, lingering on Maya. "You're the medic." It wasn't a question. Maya nodded. "I am." "Heard you shut down the Scorpions without spilling blood." Hammer's voice was gravel and smoke. "Impressive, stupid but impressive." A few chuckles rippled through the nearby members. Maya kept her expression neutral. "What's stupid about avoiding a war?" she asked evenly. The room went quiet. Speaking to Hammer that way, especially as a junior member from a small charter, was borderline suicidal. But Maya had learned long ago that respect earned through silence was worth more than respect demanded through submission. Hammer studied her for a long moment, then smiled. Barely, just a twitch at the corner of his mouth. "I like her. She's got spine. He gestured to the side of the room where folding chairs had been set up. Sit. We're about to start. The summit was brutal. 2 hours of accusations, counter-accusations, and barely restrained threats. The California charter claimed Nevada had been poaching their drug suppliers. Nevada claimed California had been muscling into their territory, pressuring casinos and bars that were traditionally neutral ground. Both sides had evidence, both sides had grievances, and both sides were ready to go to war over it. Maya listened, saying nothing, taking mental notes. The arguments were loud but unorganized, emotional rather than strategic. Men shouted over each other, voices rising until Hammer slammed his fist on the table hard enough to rattle the bottles. Enough! The room fell silent. Hammer's face was red, veins bulging in his neck. You sound like children fighting over toys. We're supposed to be brothers, not enemies. Brothers don't steal territory, growled the California representative, a man named Kane with a scar running from his ear to his collarbone. Brothers don't spread lies, countered the Nevada rep, a barrel-chested man called Vic. No relation to the Scorpions Vic, but just as imposing. Hammer looked ready to explode. Then his eyes landed on Maya. You, medic, you've been quiet. What do you see? Every head turned. Maya felt the weight of 60 stares, most of them skeptical, some openly hostile. She stood slowly, keeping her movements calm and deliberate. I see 2 charters that are both right and both wrong, she said. California's losing revenue because suppliers are getting better offers elsewhere. That's business, not betrayal. Nevada's feeling pressure because California's trying to compensate by expanding into borderline territories. That's survival, not aggression. So what's your point? Kane snapped. My point is you're fighting symptoms, not the disease. The real problem is the market's changing and neither of you adapted fast enough. Now you're blaming each other instead of fixing the actual issue. The room erupted. Half the members were shouting agreement, the other half shouting insults. One voice rose above the rest, loud and mocking. Listen to this, a man near the back called out. He was in his 40s, heavily tattooed with the kind of sneer that came from years of getting away with being cruel. His name patch read, Gunner. 8 months patched and she thinks she's Clausewitz. What's next, princess? You gonna teach us how to tie our boots? Laughter followed, harsh and pointed. Maya recognized the tone immediately. It was the same casual cruelty she'd faced at Iron Ridge, the testing, the dismissal. But this time, Dutch and Cage weren't here to back her up. She was on her own. She's got a pretty tattoo, though, another member added, pointing at Maya's wrist where the rose was visible beneath her cuff. That for your boyfriend, sweetheart? Or did you get it at a truck stop for $20? The laughter grew louder. Even some of the national officers smiled, though Hammer's expression remained unreadable. Maya didn't respond immediately. She let the noise wash over her, let them have their moment. She'd learned this lesson in Afghanistan. When men needed to feel superior, you let them posture. Then you reminded them who controlled the room. She walked forward, past Cage's warning hand, past the tables and the sneering faces, until she stood directly in front of Gunner. You done? She asked quietly. Gunner's smirk widened. Depends. You gonna cry? Maya reached up and slowly unzipped her leather jacket. The room's energy shifted immediately, curiosity overtaking mockery. She pulled the jacket off and let it drop to the floor. Beneath it, she wore a black tank top. And across her shoulders, ribs and arms were the scars, the burns, the shrapnel marks, the surgical lines that carved through muscle and bone like a map of hell. But there was more this time. On her left shoulder, partially hidden before, was a tattoo that made even the hardest men in the room go still. It was a parachute. With wings, the insignia of the Army's combat medical badge, surrounded by dog tags. 6 names were inked in precise script below it, each one a memorial. The laughter died instantly. Gunner's smirk faltered. What the hell's that? That's my squad, Maya said, her voice carrying to every corner of the room. 6 of us went in. 2 came back. I was one of them. Hammer stood slowly, his eyes locked on the tattoo. You were with the 101st Airborne, Maya nodded. 3 tours. Medic attached to a rapid response unit. We ran routes through some of the worst territory in Helmand Province. A man at the California table, older with graying hair, stood as well. His voice was rough with emotion. "You were at Sangin." It wasn't a question. Maya turned to face him, and she saw recognition in his eyes, the kind that only came from shared trauma. "I was there," Maya confirmed. "August 2013, ambush on Route Red." The man's hands were shaking. "My son was in that convoy. He didn't make it. But he wrote to me about a medic. Said she saved 3 guys even after she got hit. Said she kept working until she passed out from blood loss. He called her Angel." The room was silent now, the kind of heavy, reverent silence that comes when men realize they've made a terrible mistake. Maya's jaw tightened. "I'm sorry about your son. He was a good soldier." The man wiped his eyes roughly. "He said the medic had a rose tattoo on her wrist. Said it was the last thing he saw before they evacuated him from the field. He made it to Germany before he died. His last words were about you. He said, 'Tell Angel thank you.'" Maya's composure cracked just for a moment. Her hand went to her wrist, fingers brushing the faded rose. "I tried to save him. I tried to save all of them." "You saved 3, the man said, his voice breaking. 3 men are alive because of you. That's 3 families that got their sons back. 3 wives that got their husbands. My son didn't make it, but he died knowing someone fought for him." He walked over, and before Maya could react, he pulled her into a tight embrace. She stood rigid for a moment, then slowly, carefully, hugged him back. When they separated, the man turned to face the room. "Anyone who disrespects this woman disrespects my son and every soldier who didn't come home. You understand?" Nods rippled through the crowd. Gunner looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. Hammer sat back down, his expression softer than before. "You said we're fighting symptoms, not the disease. What's your solution?" Maya picked up her jacket, pulling it back on but leaving it unzipped. The scars were still visible, a reminder of what she'd survived. "You need a buffer," she said. "Territory between California and Nevada that's neutral ground. Set up joint supply lines that benefit both charters equally. That way nobody's losing revenue, nobody's getting squeezed, and nobody has a reason to encroach on the others. Territory." "And who manages this buffer?" Kane asked, his earlier hostility gone. "Someone both sides trust. Someone who doesn't have a stake in either charter's politics." Hammer's eyes narrowed. "You volunteering?" "No," Maya said. "I'm suggesting a rotating council. 1 rep from California, 1 from Nevada, 1 from a neutral charter like Iron Ridge. Decisions get made by consensus. No single voice dominates." Vic from Nevada leaned forward. "That could work, if the neutral party is actually neutral." "Iron Ridge has no interest in California or Nevada operations," Cage said, speaking for the first time since the summit began. "We just want to ride in peace." Hammer looked between the 2 charters, then at Maya. "You set this up. If it works, we'll implement it nationwide. If it fails..." He let the implication hang. Maya nodded. Understood. The summit ended 3 hours later with a tentative agreement. California and Nevada would cease hostile actions while Maya brokered the buffer zone agreement. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. As the members filed out, the man whose son had died approached Maya again. "I never got your name," he said. "Maya Cross." "I'm Robert Tillman. My son was David Tillman, Corporal, Sergeant 1st Airborne." Maya's breath caught. "I remember David. He was brave. Stayed calm even after he got hit." Robert's eyes welled up again. "Thank you. For fighting for him. For remembering him." "He's one of the names," Maya said, touching her shoulder where the tattoo was hidden beneath her jacket. "I'll never forget." Robert nodded, unable to speak. Then he turned and walked away, shoulders shaking with silent grief. The ride back to Arizona was quiet. Reaper rode ahead, giving Maya and Cage space. Finally, as they crossed into Nevada, Cage pulled over at a rest stop. Maya stopped beside him, killing her engine. "You okay?" Cage asked. Maya stared at the desert stretching endlessly before them. "I didn't know David's father was in the club." "You couldn't have known." "I should have saved him, Cage. I should have saved all of them." Cage pulled off his helmet and looked at her with an expression she'd never seen before, something close to reverence. "You saved 3, Maya. 3 men who would have died if you hadn't been there. That's not failure. That's heroism." Maya shook her head. "It doesn't feel like heroism. It feels like I lost. That's survivor's guilt talking, and I'm not qualified to help you with that." Cage paused. "But what I do know is this. You walked into that room today and faced down 60 men who wanted to tear you apart. You stood your ground, showed your scars, and made them see you. Not as a woman, not as a prospect, as a warrior. That's what saved the day, Maya. Not tactics, not strategy. Your courage." Maya was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "The rose isn't for my squad." Cage frowned. "What?" "I mean, it is, but it's also for me." She pulled back her cuff, revealing the tattoo fully. "The rose is what I was before, soft, trying to heal people. The barbed wire is what the war turned me into, scarred, dangerous, someone who has to protect herself. I got it to remember that both parts exist, that I'm not just the damage." Cage nodded slowly. "Does it help? Remembering?" "Some days," Maya started her engine. "Other days, it just reminds me how much weight I'm carrying." "Then let us help carry it," Cage said. "That's what brothers are for, and sisters." Maya looked at him surprised. Cage rarely showed emotion, rarely let his guard down, but in that moment she saw genuine care in his eyes. "Thank you," she said quietly. They rode the rest of the way home in silence, but it was a different kind of silence, not empty but full of understanding, the kind that didn't need words. When they arrived back at Iron Ridge, Dutch was waiting at the gate. He took one look at Maya's face and knew something had shifted. "How'd it go?" he asked. "We stopped a war," Cage said. "Again." Dutch grinned. "That's my girl." Inside the clubhouse, the crew gathered, eager for details. Maya told the story, leaving out the emotional parts, focusing on the tactics and the agreement. But Dutch watched her carefully, noticing the way her hand kept drifting to her wrist, the way her voice got quieter when she mentioned Robert Tillman. Later that night, after most of the members had gone home, Dutch found Maya sitting alone at the bar, staring at her tattoo. "You know," Dutch said, sliding onto the stool beside her, "scars don't make you weak. They prove you survived." Maya smiled faintly. "Is that supposed to be comforting?" "Nope. It's supposed to be true." Dutch poured 2 shots of whiskey and pushed one toward her. "To the ones we carry." Maya raised her glass. "To the ones we carry." They drank in silence, 2 warriors bearing weight that most people would never understand. And in the quiet of the Iron Ridge clubhouse, beneath the dim lights and the smell of motor oil, Maya Cross finally felt like she'd found a place where her scars weren't just accepted, they were honored. Some battles are fought with fists and weapons, others are fought with words and courage. And the hardest battles, Maya knew, were the ones fought inside your own skin, carrying the weight of those you couldn't save while honoring the memory of those who didn't make it home. The rose would always be there, wrapped in barbed wire, a reminder that healing and pain could coexist, that strength came not from hiding your wounds, but from carrying them with dignity. And no one ever again would mock the tattoo.